Good morning, and we're back today looking at replacing a foot pedal on a Bernina Nova 900. And when I say replacing the foot pedal, I mean in its entirety, removing the electronics and wiring the foot pedal directly into the body of the machine. And I have done one already. So this is my donor machine, which is why she's a little bit dirty. Well, a little bit more than a little dirty. And I've also got Nura here, in which I will demonstrate the finished. Let me just open the case up while I'm doing this, and then I will show you the inside of what we have done. So there you go. There she is, all done and sewing, and you've seen that on the other video, so I'm not going to re-show you that. So here's the new diagram. I've put this on the video, and I will do it again. Let me just move these out of the way so I can give you a clear shot of this. So if you want to, you can take a quick screenshot of that and of that. And I don't know if it'll help if I turn it on its side in its entirety, but there it is anyway for you to see. Now I'm going to go through this step by step with you and show you what I've done. First of all, I've got the motor out, and that's here on the plan. All right, so that's the motor, and there's the motor there. You can see the 3 pins. There's one. This one is a little bit more hidden. There's another one there, and there's another one there. This is where it can be a bit more confusing because we didn't use black anymore. So I'll talk you through that. The black has been replaced by the blue. The white is replaced by green. It's all very confusing, and I'm not an electrician. I just know that finding all of this out was a lot of trial and a lot of research. So I'd love to know if somebody who is an electrician or an electronics engineer or somebody could give us some idea of why this all works. I will go one day on an electronics course because I think it's really important when you restore machines the way I do. Underneath your machine, so in the base here, hidden away, is this little circuit board, and that is the equivalent, I understand, of an electronic foot pedal. So it does all sorts of things which I don't understand, and it actually controls your foot pedal and the air pedal. So we don't want the air pedal anymore. We're going to assume the air pedal over there is either damaged or broken, or the circuit board is. Here's the other one I took out. Or you can't afford one or anything like that. Sorry, I'm going to prop you up somewhere for 1 second while I take this one out of the bag. Nothing to see at the moment. I'm just going to take one out of the bag, the one I removed, so that you can see it. This is the one that came out the bag. Now, for this little machine, Nura, it was working perfectly because I had this repaired. It was sent away, and a new capacitor, I think this is, was put in. So it works absolutely fine, but no foot pedal. And I, don't want to pay the money for a foot pedal because this is just a little sewing machine going into my sewing room where they often get damaged. And the other thing is they're very rare to come by them. And so I'd rather use them on machines that are still very good vintage quality, and so that other people have access to those rather than me put one on a really dilapidated machine. Okay, so here we are. This is what comes out of the base. And if you have a look, these 3 pins here come out of this hole there. All right, that's where you plug in your foot pedal. And that is now going to become completely redundant, and we won't need that anymore. So first things first, we take the motor out, and you'll have a band here, which you'll take off and this will be what you'll be faced with. And this has a wire coming into it, and we're going to remove that wire, and it's attached here on the board by, I'm going to grab a pen to point with, these 3 pieces of soldered in wire, 1, 2, 3, and they go onto the back here into this mechanism and do all sorts of jiggery pokery that I don't know about. So I clipped those off. I cut those off with a wire cutter. This board is now perfectly usable for one of my antique, vintage, whatever, good quality machines that I want to keep, restore, and possibly gift or sell on. So that's what you're left with. And in this diagram, so this is not in the diagram anymore because you don't need it. You've removed the wire. So we'll put that one side. So we've looked at the motor, and we have now, okay, the light. Here's the light. The light is this wire that comes straight down from the body of the machine. It runs along here from the light, runs along the edge here, comes straight down and sticks out here. The biggest issue I have with this wire is that it plugs directly into the circuit board, and so it is very short. On my next machine I will definitely either replace or extend this wire. So that's something to be aware of. You might want to extend it so that it actually goes into the body, underneath the body of the machine, without stretching it too much, because that gave me the most trouble. I would definitely say either replace it, or if you haven't got, you don't want to do that, or you don't feel that you have the knowledge to do that, then just either clip these off or get yourself some connectors and connect another piece of maybe, I beg your pardon, about 10 centimeters of wire would be fine. So that is the light. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then we come to the foot pedal. For Nura over here, I happen to have this little electronic foot pedal lying around. I think it's from a little Singer sewing machine that I had to throw out because it didn't work. So I gathered as many parts of it as I could, and I kept the foot pedal. And all I did with that was cut off this, which is the plug that goes into the end of the sewing machine to supply both power and foot pedal. Okay, so it's mains electricity and foot pedal power, so you won't need that. So I cut that off, and I also cut off the electrical socket. Okay, and the reason for that is because it's 2-core. You can see there's only 2 wires in there, and we want 3 wires. I replaced all the cable, the original cable that would have been wound up on your machine here, and I replaced it with a 3-core wire. So sadly for me, it's not flat, it's very round, and it takes up a bit more space, and I made it longer, and it takes up a bit more space in the case, but it does close okay. There you go, that's the foot pedal. So we're now left basically with a foot pedal which has got a 2-core wire on it. And that's what you need for the foot pedal. And if you look here, you have got 2 colors coming in. This is the chocolate block. But from here, you've got the 2 colors coming in, which is live and a neutral. And they are going to go into the chocolate block. I don't know if everybody calls it that actually, but it's one of those little blocks that you connect multiple wires into on each side. And so this one goes into the chocolate block over here. So now we are ready to do the rewiring. And the first thing I say on here is to remove the circuit board and make up a new mains cable with a 3-core wire. Basically what you're doing is you're making yourself 3-core cable, 1.5-ish meters long, with a socket plug, what do you call it, on the end. This is a 3-pin, and it does now have 3 wires connected into it. And if you don't know how to do that, I'll show you that in the diagram. So in the diagram, this is what you're seeing. Okay, and that's the image there. So connect in your cable with your brown and your blue and your earth, right? And then that earth is going to connect to the body of your machine. The brown wire from your socket, your plug, is going to come up, and it's going to go around and into the top left of your chocolate block. Okay, your blue wire is going to come out of your plug. So don't forget that this is all wrapped in a white sheath, and so you don't see these wires. You'll see the ends of these wires, but the same thing. Plug the blue one in here. You screw the blue one into this terminal, and you follow that wire, and it goes into the bottom right of your 3-piece chocolate block. That's your electrical cable now connected. So let's move on to the light. I'm going to assume that you've either extended this or whatever, because it needs to be a bit longer. But you have here a blue and a brown wire, although it's not that clear to see that it's brown. Actually, it might be black in this image, but it's blue and brown. So from your light, those are those 2 cables there. You take the blue one and you follow it round, goes over here, and it also connects into the bottom right of your chocolate block. So now into this chocolate block, you've got your foot pedals blue and your socket blue wire. The brown wire is going to go all the way up and round and connect here into the top of your chocolate block. And you will have eventually 2 going into there. So that is your light now wired up. Let's go to the foot pedal. So on your foot pedal, what I did was I extended the foot pedal because I found the wires too short. When I'm on a higher table or the machine set far back, there's all sorts of reasons for it. But sometimes these companies make these wires a little bit too short. So I extended it using some proper connectors and some shrinky, what do they call it? Shrink tubing, I think. And so this would be cut off, by the way. So I've now got 2 bare wires at the end here after this end is cut off, and one will be blue and one will be brown. So here we go. Here's the foot pedal. Take your blue wire from your foot pedal's wire and connect it into the center right of your chocolate block. Take your brown wire that's coming from your foot pedal and put it into the top right of your chocolate block. That's, remember, where the light came from. So we now have 2 wires in there. That's now your foot pedal connected to the chocolate block. And when I talk about this chocolate block, it needs to be small enough that it'll fit comfortably underneath your machine. I'm going to tilt the machine up. It doesn't have a huge amount of depth to it because you've got the cover that you want to put back in here. You don't have to, but I did. But honestly, there's no need to put it back in here because you can screw the chocolate block straight to the body or glue it to the body of this machine here. But you've only got a little bit of depth here, so don't use a really big, chunky block because it won't fit in. So you've got little bits of space, but just bear that in mind. Make sure whatever you put in there fits in that depth, so when you put your machine down on the table, it doesn't rock onto that chocolate block or that connector. So that is where we are. That's talking about the connector here. Finally, we have the motor. So I take the motor out completely, and I did that because I was it was so much easier to connect all these wires and work with the wires, especially because they are so short. And we take this wire, and we now have this piece of wire here. And it's this very short wire, and all it does is connects between here, where this normally sits, and it goes up and over the top here and connects into the motor. Let's flip the machine up and show you that. So the motor sits here on its little block. Obviously I am totally at a loss for words. Your rubber band, this thing, okay, yes, that goes over there, the short one connects over there, so but you will know that from dismantling it. So that yellow wire that comes out of this board here simply comes up through this hole over the top and plugs into these 3 terminals here. And for me, it was just too short, so I rebuilt that wire. I took this wire, I cut it, I'd already removed it from the board, and I took this plastic yellow sleeve off, and I got 3 wires. I got a blue, a brown, and a green, which is your earth, and I made it about 10 centimeters longer, and I put this yellow sheath back on, just because it then looks the same. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. What that does is it connects all of these various parts to the mains electricity. Okay, so these wires coming out of this motor now, let's have that in front of us. You're going to connect the brown one into the bottom. That's this one here we're talking about, of your motor. Even though I wrote on here blue because that's what it came out originally as a blue wire. This is now my brown wire. Okay, so don't think it's a mistake. So brown comes out of here and goes up and goes directly into the center left. And this is where it becomes a bit of magic for me, and I'd love somebody to help me learn why. You've now got a brown and a blue together. It does work. From the center pin, you've now got your new green wire, and that's going to go to the earth. So what I did was I took this wire and I wound them together, put a connector on them, and I screwed that to the base of the machine, and that's earthing your machine. Okay, so that is what this symbol is. So that's the middle one, which on my machine used to be white. It's now green. And then finally we have this one, which was black. That's this one here. And here it is on our diagram. And that is the blue. We connect the blue wire and it goes up and into the bottom left of the block. Your wiring is now all complete and it should be working. You put back so feed your wires. The last thing you do is going to be to connect it to this motor. All right, so now your yellow wire is coming up here, connected in. Screw your motor down. I'd already done that. Put all of your bands and everything on. Everything now should be connected, and all you need to do is on the base, as I said, find a socket, and I used this one here to screw the earth wires down to. If you're using your plastic box that came in here, you need to have put that back in already at this point. And you can then screw the face plate back on and it'll cover all of this up. If you're not worried about any of that, just mount your chocolate block here somewhere. And you could do that with double-sided tape. You could screw it to one of these screws. there's, any way you want to do it. Now, one of the things I've forgotten to mention to you is this hole here. This is where your electricity used to come in. If you're doing it this way, that hole is very convenient because it allows you to wrap your wires around this cord wrap here and allows you to close your case. If you don't have a case anymore, you don't have to worry about that. You could have the wires coming out of here. But I removed this grommet because it's not big enough for both of the cables. And let me go over to Nura and I'll show you. There it is removed, and I've both got the foot pedal cable and the mains cable going through there and underneath the machine. Please remember to do that before you start, because if you've wired it all up at this point, my apologies for not mentioning it before, but you should have it already going through that hole. Otherwise, you won't be able to feed it through and you'll have to disconnect a few wires and do it again. My apologies. There you go. Now you've got it all back together. Close up your machine, put its cover on, put its side on, and you can test it. If you're not as brave, and no, if you are braver than I am, you'll do this yourself, because I've tested it and it works. But because this was the first time I'd done this, I made hubby switch it on and push the foot pedal in his rubbery shoes. Yes, I was nervous because this whole magic of color changing and all of that, that's what I don't understand how it works, but it does. Now, one big thing, I must say, I did this on my machines. I'm not advocating that anybody does this on theirs, but if you want to do it, it worked for me. And if you follow all the directions, hopefully it'll work for you as well. And it'll save you having to replace the foot pedal. If there's anything else I've forgotten, I will add it into the description list. And I will also post the pictures of this into the video and post that on my YouTube channel as well. At the end of the day, you now have an electronic foot pedal, which replaces this board. So if that's blown, or if your foot pedal is damaged or broken, then you've at least got an option to get your machine up and running again. And basically, you haven't actually done anything that's taking away the integrity of the machine, of how it works. You've just got a usable machine again. And that's what, for me, was the most important, because these are wonderful machines for my sewing classes. And I just have to keep them well maintained and working. And they are not like that beautiful machine over there, my vintage display models. And so this absolutely works fine. And if you're wondering, I do believe any electronic foot pedal you have will work. It's got electronics in there for speed control and whatever it does. So it doesn't matter which one you get, whether it's one which has just got a plug on it and you remove that and have a separate electrical cable, or whether it was one like this which came with both attached together like this one did. And I simply cut both off. One was for then the mains and one was for the foot controller. You can use both. So I hope that's been helpful and useful for you guys. And it's going to give some longevity to some of these machines where perhaps you can't actually find a machine which is in perfect condition and you can't get parts. So good day, everybody. Have a lovely day, and we'll speak soon. Bye.